When you think of a drone, you probably picture some sleek, modern piece of tech. But what if I told you the story of these unmanned aircraft is way, way older than you think? The idea actually goes all the way back to the 19th century, and now it's completely reshaping the future of conflict. So let's get into it. To really wrap your head around how far we've come, just look at this comparison. The very first prototype, this thing called the gyroplane from the early 20th century, well, it barely got half a meter off the ground before it just crashed. Now, fast forward to today, and we have drones like Airbus's Zephyr that can soar more than 18 kilometers up, punching right into a layer of our atmosphere called the stratosphere. And that really brings us to the big question for today. I mean, commercial jets, they fly at around 12 kilometers, tops. So what is this obsession with pushing drones to these insane altitudes? What's the big advantage of being way up there? We are going to get to the answer, but to understand it, we first have to see how we even got here. Yeah, to really understand the drone's future, you have to start with its past. And it's a story that's been built over 100 years of innovation and, well, a lot of conflict. This timeline really shows you how war just supercharges technology. You had early failures like the gyroplane, but then World War I comes along, and suddenly the British developed the first wireless rocket. Of course, Germany saw that, and they were quick to jump on the idea, using it to get a real strategic edge in World War II. And just like that, the race for the perfect unmanned weapon was on. That historical race eventually brings us right into the modern era, where these machines stopped being experimental and became a totally routine part of military operations. This one number right here, really marks the turning point. Over his 2 terms in office, President Barack Obama authorized more than 540 drone strikes. That volume, that sheer number, it just fundamentally changed warfare. It made remote attacks a standard go-to tool in the military's playbook. And if you want to see what that change looks like in the data, check this out. Before the Obama administration, the U.S. had carried out a grand total of 46 strikes in Pakistan. Those resulted in 477 deaths, with 129 of them being civilians. Now look at this. In his first year alone, President Obama authorized 54 strikes, more than all the previous years combined, leading to 549 deaths, including 70 civilians. The game had clearly changed. Okay, so let's circle back to our original question. Why fly so high? It turns out it's not just about strikes anymore. It's about surveillance, it's about communication, and it's about this secret advantage that comes from controlling the very highest layers of the sky. The stratosphere, that's the key to all of this. It's the super calm atmospheric layer that's way above where commercial jets fly, and it's above all of our weather. With almost no clouds, no turbulence, it is the absolute perfect place for an aircraft to just hang out for a very, very long time. And operating up there gives you some incredible advantages. You can carry out pinpoint long-term surveillance without ever being bothered by a storm. You can beam communications down to the most remote areas on the planet. You can keep a constant, invisible watch over a border. And from way up there, you are incredibly hard to spot. In fact, developers have a really cool name for these high-altitude drones. They call them pseudo-satellites because, well, they can basically do the job of a satellite, but with way more flexibility. They fill this critical gap between regular airplanes and actual assets in space. So you can probably guess what happened next, right? This has kicked off a whole new kind of tech race, not just for military power, but for control over this valuable new layer of our atmosphere. And the power we're talking about with these pseudo-satellites is just staggering. Get this. A single Zephyr drone can provide the same telecommunications coverage as 250 cell towers on the ground. Just think about the strategic value of being able to deploy that kind of infrastructure basically anywhere in the world in just a matter of hours. And here's the kicker. They are incredibly difficult to counter. Their radar signature is super weak. They produce way less heat than a jet engine, so good luck trying to hit one with a heat-seeking missile. And of course, their extreme altitude puts them way out of reach for a lot of traditional anti-aircraft weapons. But here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. This isn't just a race between countries anymore. Nope. Tech giants like Meta and Google are also huge players in this game. They're developing their own high-altitude drone programs, all with the goal of creating global internet networks. Up in the stratosphere, the line between corporate power and state power is getting really blurry, which leaves us with one final and really crucial question. As all these nations and corporations keep pushing higher and higher, creating this whole new operational frontier above the clouds but below space, who gets to write the rules? Who will ultimately control this new layer of the sky?